Good morning. My name is Alemicha Flores Bianco, and I will be answering the thought prompt A, which is age. I will be reading the questions and answering. How do you define age? Do you think it differs from how most people would define age? I guess I would define age as growing older and learning from experiences. I do not believe so. I feel that everyone defines age the same way that I do, or at least very similar to me. Um, the second question is, what does it mean to be an adult, and why do you say that? Do you feel you are an adult? Why or why not? Um, I would think that the meaning of being an adult would be taking responsibility for your actions and being less impulsive than you were when you were a child or a kid or a teenager, however you want to say it. It also means that you need to work and pay bills and take care of more people. Like sometimes your parents, kids, siblings, lovers, or even sometimes your friends. I guess I say that because that is what being an adult means to me. To me, it is about trying to leave the world a better place, and to do that, you have to be wiser and you have to be kinder than you were as a kid. It also means that you eventually, at some point, will have to learn how to take care of someone, hell, even something. You have to avoid behaving or trying to stop acting impulsively because the impulse can sometimes be dangerous. I do not feel like I'm an adult, but I do feel adulthood creeping closer and closer as time passes. Question 3. What concerns do you have about being an adult? That I won't be good enough, or that I won't be good at it. I fear that I won't be a good parent, and that because I'm not a good parent, my kids will come out messed up in some way, whether that be emotional, psychological, just in some way I feel like I'm going to screw up my kids. I feel like a lot of people, specifically people that want kids, fear that they're going to mess up their kids somehow. I also fear aging, maybe because I don't understand why we have to do it. I'm sure there's an explanation, I just don't understand why. Or maybe because I never felt ready to grow up, but I did, and it kind of freaked me out because I had no control over it and I couldn't stop it. I still can't stop it, and I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I want to stop it or if I'm just gonna, just let myself die. I don't know. I guess all of that really contributes to being scared. The fourth question, what does being old mean to you? What age is old if you had to put a number on it, and why did you pick that age? Maybe when you no longer can take care of yourself, like you sort of revert back into being a baby in a way. You can't feed yourself. You barely have control over your bowel movements. You start to forget things, people, places. You start to forget. My grandmother owned an old aging home. When I was a kid, I used to hang out there a lot. There were a lot of elderly people that were fine, in my opinion. And I didn't fully understand why they needed to be there. Because in my family, at least, we're very family oriented. It's like, I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing, but it's very important to us to always be with our family. So I never really understood why people would leave their parents or their grandparents in aging homes. It never made sense to me. But when I figured it out, as I got older, I learned that it was because they had dementia or other conditions like that or similar to that, or just other conditions in general that needed a lot of time and a lot of attention. And they themselves could no longer take care of themselves. And their children or grandchildren couldn't take care of them full time because of work or other reasons. Some people aren't ready to take on that responsibility. So I can't put an age to it because it all depends on if they have the mental capability to keep themselves safe, and that they can change, and that in general can really change in many different ages, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even younger. Or you can be like Betty White and the Queen Elizabeth. They were super old. And the physical sense. But they looked fine. I will say Queen Elizabeth is younger than Betty White. I believe Betty White was 99. She was almost 100. And Queen Elizabeth was 98, 96, something like that. And if you looked at them side by side, for many years, I believed that Betty White was younger than Queen Elizabeth, because Queen Elizabeth looked physically a lot older. She looked like a stereotypical old lady, like she was already starting to kind of lean forward. She was walking around with a cane. Meanwhile, Betty White looked like she could dance circles around me. And they looked fine for their age, relatively. Like, there's some 90-year-olds that can't even get out of bed. Meanwhile, these two women were walking around. But if I really had to pick an age, I'd be somewhere in the late 80s to 90s. And I choose this age range because these people have lived through a few decades. Quite a few decades. Like, a lot of them. So they know a few things about life. And they've seen some crazy stuff. And they have lived through some crazy stuff. But they're, age doesn't mean wiser, but definitely they experienced a lot of things. The fifth question is, what concerns do you have about becoming old? One of my main concerns, I guess, is being alone. Like I mentioned before, my grandmother owned an old aging home, and some of the elderly that lived there never got visited by their families, and I find that to be quite sad. I also know that I will miss my mom because I know that she has the possibility of dying before I do. And she raised me on her own. I don't know who I would be without her. So I think I would feel rather lost. The sixth question is, at which chronological age should we be able to vote? Drive, drink alcohol legally, get married for each. Explain why. 25. Because by that point, your brain is fully developed, so it might stop you, maybe just a little bit, from doing stupid and impulsive things. I don't think we should lower the drinking age at all. I mean, young people already drink, and it is clear that they do not know how to do it safely. You would think that they would try to be safer with it because it's illegal and they can get arrested, or at least have some sort of legal issue. But they don't care. So what makes us think that they're going to care as adults when it's legal? Or if they lowered the legal age, what makes you think that they're going to care about being safe? And I know that there's a lot of argument, well, the British do it. Yeah, but the British are not the American. We're very different. There's a lot of issues that America has that, the British don't have, and all the issues that we have would be made like 20 times worse with alcohol. Voting, I just feel that even if young people do understand, they are still quite naive when it comes to fully understanding how politics work. They might get manipulated by politicians who are selling them lies and false dreams and false hope, because a lot of young people are naive. I myself am still naive to a lot of things. We want to believe the better in people. Do we understand sometimes people aren't good? Yeah, but we still, we want to believe and we want to hope that they aren't lying. You would think that politicians aren't going to lie because they should be the ones trying to help fix everything. But people lie, and I feel like they need to comprehend that a little bit more. Marriage, I would say 25, because then you have a clearer understanding of who you are as a person and what you want. I think it is very important to know yourself before you make the decision of marrying someone or being with someone for the rest of your life. Because for the most part, that's what marriage is. Marriage is, I take you till death do us part. And, some people say that literally. They're like, well, we're going to be together from the second that we would get married till the day that we die. And that's a very big commitment, and I feel like marriage would last longer if people took the time to figure themselves out learn about themselves, understand themselves, what they want, what they don't want, what they like, what they don't like. And I feel like if you get married young, you stop yourself from doing that. I feel like it's impossible for you to figure out who you are properly, because you will be molding your entire self and your entire personality into your relationship, into whoever you're dating. Well, my partner does this, they behave this way, so I behave in ways that are compliant to them, or I behave another way, and I think before you decide to do something like getting married, you should really be fully clear on who you are as a person. And I didn't make it clear before, but for all of it in general, for driving, drinking, just everything. I think, well, for driving, for reasons, logical reasons like school and stuff like that, I'd leave it at where it is. I wouldn't change that one. But for the rest of it, 25. And the reason that I say I wouldn't change the driving is because I know that a lot of teenagers don't have the ability to take the bus for whatever reason, and their parents don't want to take them to school or can't take them to school for whatever reason. So I know that they'll probably be the ones that have the responsibility of taking themselves to school, taking their siblings to school. So I understand that sometimes you need a license at a younger age. But I really do think that before they get a license, they should really be taught how to be more responsible. And before you give them a license, really make sure that they understand that whether they realize it or not, what they're driving is a deadly weapon, whether you mean for it to be or not. I mean, there's a lot of cases where teenagers get arrested for street racing because they think it's cool, but it's really dangerous. I think it was like in 2018, there was a case where a boy was drag racing with his friend and he killed a mom and her baby because he wasn't careful. Because he thought, oh, drag racing is cool, I'm going to have fun. And he didn't see a mother and her pushing her baby in a stroller crossing the street, and he hit her with his car. And they are both dead because he was reckless and he was immature and he didn't understand that what he was doing was dangerous and what he was driving was dangerous. Vehicles are dangerous. So I do think that before you are like, hey, here's your license, I think we should really make sure that they understand that driving is very dangerous. The seventh question: how would you rate your biological age, psychological age, social and emotional age in relation to your chronological age? Explain why. I don't know about my biological age. I have not been to a doctor for a proper checkup in years because I don't have medical insurance, and I can only get it when I'm 21. I am only 20, so technically in a few more months because I was born in January. I would say I am fine and that I am healthy, but I cannot say with 100% certainty. My psychological age, I would say I'm fine. My cognitive functioning seems all right to me. My self-esteem, who's to really say? Sometimes she's fine. Other times I'm depressed and self-loathing, and other times I'm overcompensating with a big ego. It might not be healthy, but that is how I learned to cope, and how I guess in a sense I can't say, like, I guess in a sense I am mature enough to understand that it is okay not to be okay 24/7. Do I listen to that? No. I think my social emotional age is fine. I do think I should socialize more with people my own age that aren't related to me. But most of my friends live out of state, and the ones that don't are busy with school and work, so we don't hang out much. I do hang out with my older sister often, like every day. So I'm not a complete hermit. And I understand how to socialize with people my age, though I would say I feel older than they are, like 20 or 10 years older. I don't understand their way of speaking, like their lingo, their what's the word? I don't know. The way they abbreviate things, I think like the furthest I get with like abbreviation that I can understand is like LOL, HMU? No. HB, which is like, how about you? I don't really fully understand it. And for the most part, teenagers nowadays speak in acronyms. And if they're not speaking in acronyms, they're inventing new words to throw into their vocabulary. And it's really confusing. So, speaking in my social emotional age, I feel like I'm older. I don't know. Like mentally, I feel like I'm definitely so much older than the people around me, or the people my age. And I feel much older mentally than I do physically. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.